Hello there. Hi. Nice to see you. Today is May 8th, 2022. That means it's Mother's Day. For this Mother's Day, I wanted to talk about the manga Another by Yukito Ayatsuji, artwork by Hiro Kiyohara. Really the theme that I picked up most in reading this comic. Very beautiful story, great artwork, and really emotionally impactful. But one of the themes that I really took from it is Another is really a tragedy about the loss and absence of a mother. The woman responsible for bringing you into this world, the one who nurtures you, shows you compassion and love, the one who raises you in the home and protects your innocence. A mother is irreplaceable. Together, combined with the father, they create that crucial component to a child's upbringing. Really, it's needed for their emotional stability. Koichi Sakakibara never knew his mother. She had died when he was very young. Koichi was brought up by his father, and it looks like they have a good relationship, demonstrated by their frequent communication, and it may be a culture barrier to me. I would never want to be separated from my kids for that extensive of a time. Now, I say that with 3 little ones, but who knows what life will throw at me in the future. But it seems to be a thing that happens in Japan. At least my knowledge extends as far as the latest Persona game. Nevertheless, Koichi seems to gravitate to a few older women, and I really think this is a manifestation of that inner yearning for a mother. Sanae Mizuno and Reiko Mikami they essentially are his pseudo-mom. Now you have Mei Misaki on the other hand. Though she has a mother figure, she suffers much as Koichi. Her mother is not her biological mother. You see, she was adopted after her mother suffered a stillbirth. She cared for Mei, but you can see it in the story that she never overcame that barrier of grief, and they pretty much just treat each other as acquaintances. They may care for one another, but it's really just in the sense that they don't want to see the other harmed. I don't find a deep connection there. The absence of a mother has affected these two individuals in a pretty catastrophic way. Koichi almost seems like an empty vessel, wandering through life, going through the motions, but with a sense that something is missing. Throughout the story, we are given glimpses of the bond that Koichi developed with Reiko. However, that bond turns out to be just an illusion, as we find out during the climax of the story that Reiko was actually the casualty for that year and had died some time ago. Another centers on a group of middle schoolers, with Koichi kind of being that protagonist of the story. He just transferred in, and throughout the course of the year, he starts to see this mystery unraveling, what is essentially a curse. And he meets Mei Misaki, who notices that all the students around her just ignore her, but he doesn't. So as Koichi continues to dive into this mystery, he learns that every year there is a quote-unquote casualty, in which a student or person connected to a previous year 3 class who died comes back, and everyone's mind kind of shapes around this person never having died. But because of that, the class begins to experience more and more deaths. Again, almost that idea of death reconciling against his Excel spreadsheet and realizing there's one extra person that shouldn't be here. There's a line by Koichi's grandmother that Reiko treated Koichi like her son whenever they were around each other, but that they only saw each other a handful of times during her life. If the casualty is essentially just a ghost, is Reiko's affection for Koichi a manifestation of the relationship they had and the care she felt for him? Or does the apparition behave in reflection to the perceptions of the individuals they interact with? When Reiko is revealed as the casualty and is re-killed by Koichi, the memory of her being there fades, except for Koichi and Mei. But even as time goes on, her memory to them becomes hazy. The moments of teaching, the kindness shown, the shoulder provided, none of it truly happened, except for in Koichi's mind. He lacks something great, that mother-son bond that builds up a child alongside the father to make them whole. Koichi was left incomplete. His father present, but not there. At least he attempts to connect with his son, but I really see his attempts as lacking that depth that is needed when in those years of childhood. Mei's situation, on the other hand, is a strange one. I mentioned earlier of her sort of strained relationship with her mom. Now, I don't know if it's some kind of a cultural difference in the way people help each other deal with tragedy, but I find it interesting how the connected parties went about it. See, May is a set of twins, but she was given to her adoptive mother as essentially a coping mechanism. Whether or not this is not uncommon culturally, did this really help her deal with her grief? I think that's another topic entirely, but seeing this woman experience the tragedy of her child that she is carrying essentially die and never coming to know that child, instead of helping her process that grief, they just essentially give her a replacement. So I don't know if she's ever really able to process that. Here, take one of our kids to help you cope. The story doesn't dive into what that looked like at the time, but I find it interesting. Here we have a mom that lost her child and is in the midst of her pain, demonstrating the bond a mother and child develop just by the simple fact of the baby growing inside of her. In a world where babies are murdered, and especially now with the way the culture is, the grief a mother feels when a baby dies during pregnancy is really another indication of how this thing inside of her is more than just a clump of cells. May is distant. Reserved feels like an understatement. Although we are catching her at a point in her life where her sister just died, so possibly she's in a highly vulnerable state. The closest person in her life is now dead, and the person she should be able to cling to never really took her role as seriously as it required her to. The love May should be receiving is instead transferred to dolls that her mother is creating. She's unable to love a human and understand what it means to give yourself to another, and so she just gives it to inanimate objects because they're not complicated. Humans are complicated, and when they're not loved properly, they spiral. They face life with a handicap. They are ill-prepared. May sees their relationship as a placeholder, just going through the motions of the basic functions of human interaction. She believes her mother wouldn't be concerned over her predicament of being the invisible one. She is both invisible at school and at home. Except for Koichi. He sees her. Koichi and May find comfort in each other. They both know what it means to be without a structured home. Koichi has his father, that's lacking. I cannot say how May is coping without that other half of the foundation as well. In her case, she may truly be wandering aimlessly. If she doesn't have that firm foundation of a mom, how much more detrimental is not having that of a father as well? We see as the tale goes on, their relationship blossom as they work together to understand this mystery. As they come to the realization that Reiko is the casualty and realize that the only way to move forward in life is to essentially re-kill her, I think they both mourn her. Through that grief, they're able to mourn what they're lacking. Together at Reiko's grave, they reminisce on the paths that they've walked through over the recent months. Koichi grieves over the realization that he never really knew his aunt. The memories he had created over the course of the story weren't real memories. He never knew his mother, and in a sense, he never knew his aunt as well. The only person that he had envisioned could have taken her spot. May mourns her as well, but I think she also understands the loss that Koichi is feeling. I think she too feels she'll never have that relationship in her own life, and I think that's what she's mourning. But I think there's hope yet for change, hope for a better tomorrow. And while another may seem like just a supernatural mystery, I think its themes have a lot to say about the real world. And so I'll end with this. Parents, enjoy your children. Take your responsibility seriously and teach them as much as you can. May you live long lives together. May it never happen that you are separated from them too. We never know when the end will be. So don't neglect them. You are the foundation that they'll stand on. And likewise, children, enjoy your parents. Love them. Obey them. They're doing their best to help you navigate the world around you. And Lord willing, may you grow up to do the same for your children. So I say, Happy Mother's Day. I hope you have a great one. God bless. And be good.